one of the things that confound me most in life is that you have a pizza, which is round, that we put in a square box that we serve as a triangle. But I found something more confounding than that. And I know you're still thinking about that one. That's confounding. It's the criminal justice system. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And I want to thank Anthony and Jack for setting me up with that lob for the alley-oop, because I'm about to slam dunk that bad boy. Criminal justice system is something, and I call it the criminal injustice system, because there is no justice. And before you can be set free, you have to recognize, acknowledge the lies that held you hostage. And one of the lies that held this community hostage is that prison, the prison industrial complex, is a need and it does something for us. And nothing can be more patently false than both of those statements. I think Anthony and Jack laid the groundwork for what I'm about to say, and that the department is charged with care, custody, and control. That is their moniker. However, their actual behavior is more like, I don't care, oppressive and oftentimes deadly custody, and they are way out of control. I had the misfortune of spending 30 years of incarceration, consecutive years, for a crime I did commit, and for that, I humbly apologize. I was guilty. But I know a third of that population that is not guilty at all. I know another third of that population who's only in there because they took a plea bargain. Because 90% of the cases that are adjudicated by plea, where they give you, now I'm not a mathematician, you see I don't know geometry with the squares and circles and triangles. I ain't a mathematician either, but I do know that if you offer me 5 years and tell me I'm facing 20, I know that 5 is less than 20, and I might want to jump on that for various reasons. Paramount the fact that I'm black, I'm poor, I'm not going to get fair representation, I'm not even going to get good representation. So maybe I'll take this 5 years and spare myself 15 years of extended stay. That is not a system that is working for us, where people are in there when they didn't do nothing, but they're afraid to go to trial. Where people are in there who didn't do nothing because of prosecutorial misconduct, all type of malfeasance by the side that's supposed to be upholding the law. Wrongful convictions in this state is abysmal. Every year you read somebody being released because new evidence has come out, evidence that have been held without their knowledge, witnesses that have been hid or forced to lie. Yet we call this a justice system. Justin, that's my son, Justin. The guy in the middle is of no relation to Sylvia. But that's Joe Frazier. That's Justin, a certified, bona fide advocate for people with disabilities. Now, I told you I spent 30 years, which means I was a poor parent in that respect, that I wasn't on hands all the time. But because of my wife and family, I had the availability to be with my son as much as possible to help him through school. And then when I was released after 30 years, was able to bond with him in a way that he ended up following in my footsteps. As I am an advocate for human rights and criminal justice reform, he became an advocate for people with disabilities because he suffers from Down syndrome. And everything they told us about him that wouldn't happen has happened. Matriculated all the way to college, hold a steady job. Now, he got some issues. I ain't gonna front. He got some issues. But overall, every definition, every determining factor that said, oh, that's me in prison with all those guys. Yeah, that's me with some friends. More prison. That's me and Justin. Justin is the apple of my eye. You know what Justin taught me? If you ever had somebody that had Down syndrome or been around them, they are the most loving people that you could ever encounter. Justin taught me that joy isn't seasonal, it's spiritual. It's in his spirit, that no matter what's going on, he can remain joyful. My fear for Justin is that we have criminalized mental illness in this country. We closed all the places that used to treat and help people with mental illness. We criminalized them and put them in jail. Now, the mosaic of my life is my grandfather was in jail. I don't even know my great-grandfather, but he might have been in there. My father was in jail. I was in jail. 2 of my 3 sons were in jail. Countless uncles, cousins, friends. And I began, after seeing that, to believe this narrative about black-on-black crime. Until I did some research and realized every group of people killed and maimed their own more than anybody else. So while we talk about black-on-black crime, that's another question for another time. But I could see my son, who has mental disabilities, who's overcome them in ways that we could never have imagined and that doctors today are still baffled by. But because of his diagnosis, he's listed as Down syndrome, somebody with a mental illness. And perchance, he could get arrested and end up in the same criminal and justice system that I watch churn out bad people because they did not provide them with the necessities that they try to convince you and everybody else that they do. There's no such thing in prison right now as rehabilitation. Rehabilitation requires you to think about incarcerated people as human beings, and we haven't got there yet. Incarcerated lives matter. You know why? Because I was incarcerated. And by God, I matter. I mattered then, and I matter now. And to that young man, I matter the world. But again, we got a system that churns out. If this was GM, Ford, any of the Fortune 500 companies who had a product and churned out that much recall, recidivism, they'd be out of business. Why does the criminal justice system prosper when they churn out a bad product? Because they don't put into it what they're telling you and I that they do. They be out of business, but they flourish. Why do they flourish? Because crime does pay, but not for the people who commit it. It pays for the people who live off of what they see as an opportunistic angle to benefit from crime. Fedorov Dostoevsky, I think I said that right, said, I want to quote this right now. Dostoevsky said, you can tell the degree of civilization in a society by entering its prisons. If you entered our prisons now, you would see what's going on in there is exactly what's going on out here. That the most vulnerable, the ones with the least voice, the least voting power, and that look like me are being treated less than human. So my call is that we should be demanding that everybody be treated like a human being. You know why? Because the minute you subjugate somebody else's humanity, you invariably subjugating your own. It's just like the people who thought when the ICE started that they were only going to start with gangbangers and supposedly violent criminals, and now everybody's fodder for it. The same thing happens. We need facilities who work on a position of care and restoration, not on punishment, torture, death, and lies. Because the lie to you is that we're sending people away so they can get better and come back. The truth is, we're sending people away either to die or to come back bitter and not better. An example, New York City, somebody's always getting pushed on the train. If that happened right now, the headlines would be emblazoned. Formerly incarcerated person pushes somebody on the train. The story will never lead with a person who we, the system, did not take care of, is discombobulated to the point that he would even think about doing something like that. So we're at fault, not him. Contrary to the beliefs of the 47th president, no one is born a criminal. No one. As a matter of fact, Aristotle puts it like this. Poverty is the parent to both crime and rebellion. You want to get rid of crime? You want to lower crime? Let's get rid of poverty. Because people don't rob and steal when they have a good paying job, when they have a good house to go home to, when they have a family that they can take care of without stealing from Peter to pay Paul. So it's not crime. I'm not a criminal. Never was, and thanks be to God, never will be. But I committed a crime. Are we going to relegate our people to dehumanized status because of bad choices they make? And choices you have no idea why they may have made them. See, we judge people all the time. And we say, oh, well, I don't care. Can't understand why he would do that. But if you only have A and B to choose from, either one is a good choice to you. Most people have a panorama of things to choose from. And then when they make the wrong choice, maybe then you can fault them. But when you don't have many, other thing that confounds me is, why do we drive on the parkway and park in the driveway? But that is a conundrum that I could deal with. The one that I can't is that we continue to lie to ourselves and to the men and women who are incarcerated that this system works. Matter of fact, it does work. It's not broken. It is working the way they designed it. So my question to you is, are we ready to break it and make a system that works for you and I, and that works for the people incarcerated, that brings people back to the community better than they went in, that brings people back to the community feeling like a human being and part of the franchise? It is until we're ready to do that en masse that we can talk about having a justice system. I want you to understand this. And I put this on to look good, but I want you to see me. I knew you were going to hear me, but please feel me on this. Feel me on this. That injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And when you change one person's designation from human to subhuman, you change your own, because we are all human beings. And contrary to public opinion, there is but one race, the human race. And incarcerated people's lives matter too, because we are human beings. And we deserve the same rights, respect, and love as everybody else. Don't wait till you're in that situation for drunken driving or something you didn't even do to now want to scream humanity. I need you to scream humanity with me now. Because we got people right now who are feeling subhuman. And when you treat somebody less than human, they usually tend to act less than human. Help me save Justin. from a system that would destroy him and destroy the legacy of the father and son bond that we overcame after 30 years of incarceration. I need you to help me help everybody understand that incarcerated people's lives matter too. Thank you.